arrogant boxing star challenged a young Jamaican newcomer to humiliate her, but the tables turned. "Look what we have here," Victoria Sterling sneered, as an 18-year-old stepped into the elite Manhattan gym. The sound of gloves hitting heavy bags stopped. All eyes turned to Kesha Campbell, holding a worn sports bag and sneakers that had clearly seen better days. Her presence contrasted sharply with the polished atmosphere of a gym where membership cost more than 3 months' salary. Victoria Sterling, two-time world champion, wasn't just famous for her knockout power. At 26, she had built a reputation on her sharp tongue and viral social media posts. Her latest upload showed her flexing with the caption, "When you're naturally superior, you don't have to pretend to be equal." It already had 500,000 likes. "Sorry," Kesha said softly, checking the cracked screen of her phone. "I thought this was the youth scholarship program." Victoria's laugh echoed like an alarm. "Scholarship? This isn't a charity. We train real athletes here, not social projects." Kesha had arrived from Jamaica only 6 months earlier. Her family had scraped together every coin to send her to America. By day, she worked 16-hour shifts cleaning offices, sharing a cramped room in the Bronx with 3 others. This program was her one chance to train seriously. "The program exists," interrupted a firm voice. Tom Rodriguez, veteran trainer and owner of the gym, appeared with a folder in his hand. "And Kesha Campbell is on the approved list." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Really, Tom? My sponsors won't like this." "They pay for results, not your opinion," Tom answered dryly. But Victoria wasn't done. She stepped closer to Kesha with a smile that felt more like a warning. "You want to train here? Fine. Prove you deserve it. 3 rounds, you against me. If you last, you stay. If not," she flicked her hand dismissively. Kesha felt every stare in the room. She knew this was a trap meant to break her spirit before it even began. Yet her gaze stayed firm. "I accept," she said quietly. Victoria smirked. "Are you sure? When I'm done, you'll regret dreaming so big." "I'm sure," Kesha repeated, and for the first time she smiled. What Victoria didn't know was that back in Kingston, Kesha carried a nickname, Lightning, and lightning only reveals its true power when the storm breaks. While Victoria planned how to turn the spar into viral content, Tom noticed the determined gleam in Kesha's eyes and felt something he hadn't in years, the shiver that comes when a hidden talent is about to shock the world. If stories of resilience like this inspire you, hit subscribe now, because what happened in those 3 rounds was so unbelievable that people still talk about it today. How a girl from the Bronx rewrote the rules of a sport built for the elite. Word of the spar spread like wildfire. Within an hour, fighters, trainers, even sports journalists crowded the gym. Victoria Sterling versus an unknown Jamaican newcomer, the kind of spectacle social media devours. 3 rounds, 16-ounce gloves, just sparring, Tom announced. Victoria laughed. "Relax, Tom. This won't last 2 rounds. She was already filming clips for her 2 million followers. "Guys, you won't believe this. Some random girl wants to challenge me. I'm going to show her what happens when dreams collide with reality." The comments poured in instantly. "Crush her, Victoria. Show why you're the queen." Meanwhile, Kesha slipped quietly into the locker room. Her hands stayed steady. They always did before a fight. But her heart raced. Part controlled anger, part memories she usually kept locked away. Tom followed her into the locker room. "Kesha, you don't have to prove anything. The scholarship's important, but she's not worth an injury." "I won't get hurt," Kesha said, slipping on the borrowed gloves. "She's a 2-time world champion. Power, technique, experience." Kesha looked him in the eye. "And I have something she never will." Tom raised a brow. "What's that?" "Hunger." The single word hung in the air. Tom had trained hundreds in 3 decades, but rarely heard it spoken with such quiet conviction. In her eyes, he recognized the same spark he'd seen only in the fiercest competitors. "Tell me," he asked, sitting beside her, "why accept her challenge at all?" Kesha closed her eyes. Kingston streets flashed in her mind. Her mother pleading for her to stop, the snap of precise punches. the whispered nickname, Lightning. "Because I've lived this before," she said at last. "People like Victoria think words and arrogance can break us. They forget one truth. Those who fight to survive aren't here for sport. We fight to exist." A chill ran through Tom. It sounded less like motivation and more like prophecy. Outside, Victoria kept playing to the cameras. "Check out those worn-out sneakers," she mocked. I doubt she's ever seen a real ring. Probably learned from YouTube. Laughter rippled through the gym, but seasoned boxers stayed quiet. Marcus Williams, a retired middleweight champ, murmured to a sparring partner, "I've seen that calm before. The quiet ones? They're the ones you watch." Victoria didn't notice. "You know the problem with people who think hardship equals skill?" she said to her phone. "They mistake desperation for talent." At that moment, Kesha stepped out, wearing simple shorts and a tank top that revealed arms carved by years of work. Her movements were smooth, efficient, like a cat ready to strike. "Ready to learn?" Victoria asked with a smirk. "Always," Kesha replied. What Victoria couldn't know was that Lightning Campbell had been fighting since she was 8. First to keep food on the table, later to defend a reputation that spread through Kingston's back alley rings. By 12, she was beating boys older and heavier. By 16, she was a legend for speed and anticipation, a fighter who read opponents like an open book. When she finally got her US visa, she swore she'd never enter a ring again. But some vows break when dignity is on the line. Tom adjusted her gloves and felt the dense strength in her forearms. "Kesha," he asked quietly, "have you really never fought before?" She gave a small, knowing smile. Define fought. Outside, spectators whispered wagers and filmed every second, convinced this would be a quick lesson for the newcomer. They didn't yet realize the truth. The most dangerous fighters are often the ones who've learned to hide their power until the exact moment the world sees it. While Victoria Sterling kept her phone busy, 17 mocking stories and counting, something very different was unfolding in the quiet corners of the gym. Tom Rodriguez, who had spent 3 decades shaping champions, sensed what the cameras couldn't catch. True strength never announces itself. And this young woman, she defied every expectation. Her hands bore no rookie blisters. Her reflexes were too sharp. Her calm was almost unnatural for someone about to face a world champion. "Kesha," Tom called as she tightened the laces on her gloves. "Show me a few basic moves. Just so I know where you're at." The next 5 minutes erased any doubts. Kesha's footwork flowed like water. Her punches struck the heavy bag with surgical accuracy. Tom had only seen such effortless power in fighters who'd spent decades in the ring. "My good grief," he muttered under his breath. "Who is this girl?" Then the gym door creaked open. Kesha froze. A broad-shouldered man with scarred hands and eyes hardened by life stepped inside. "Lightning," he said simply. The single word cracked through the room like a starter's pistol. Several veteran boxers exchanged puzzled looks, trying to recall where they'd heard that name. "Uncle Winston?" Kesha's voice wavered for the first time all night. "I flew in the moment I heard," he answered, Jamaican accent thick with concern. "I thought we agreed those days were behind you." Tom raised an eyebrow. "You two know each other?" Winston studied him, debating how much to reveal. "I've known this girl since she was 8, he said finally, "and I can promise you, Victoria Sterling has no idea what's about to step in that ring." Across the gym, Victoria posed for yet another clip. "Guys, get this," she whispered to her camera. She even brought her family to watch her lose. "How adorable." Comments flooded in. "Victoria's going to crush her. Show her what real boxing looks like." Winston shook his head. "Arrogant," he muttered. Exactly the kind Lightning used to humble on the streets of Kingston. "Uncle, please," Kesha said, a hint of plea in her voice. "Don't tell anyone." "Tell them what?" Tom asked, curiosity rising. Winston exhaled, then met Tom's eyes. "I'll be straight with you." That young woman was the fiercest street fighter Kingston ever saw. At 12, she beat grown men 3 times her size. By 15, even gang leaders gave her space. Lightning wasn't just a nickname, it was a warning. Tom turned to Kesha, startled. She walked away when she earned her visa, Winston continued. Swore she'd never fight again. But some people confuse kindness for weakness, and Lightning never lets anyone underestimate her because of where she comes from or who she is. Across the gym, Victoria finished another set of posts and called her manager. Michael, this is going to blow up, she said, grinning. A champion versus an amateur. Sponsors will eat it up. Total domination. Just don't hurt her, came the manager's voice through the speaker. We don't need lawsuits. Victoria laughed. Relax, she won't last long enough to get hurt. Winston's eyes narrowed as he overheard. He leaned toward Tom. Bet on Lightning, he whispered. Victoria might have belts and fame, but she's never fought for dinner. Lightning isn't here to look good. She's here to remind the world what survival really means. Kesha walked over, sweat glistening from the workout. Uncle Winston, what are you telling him? The truth, Winston said calmly, that you're not the helpless newcomer this champion thinks you are. Around them, other fighters exchanged knowing looks. Respect replaced doubt. The air in the gym shifted. Uncle, I really don't want to. Don't want to what? Winston's eyes narrowed. Show them who you are, Lightning. You've spent months scrubbing floors to start over, but when someone tries to humiliate you for where you come from, a new life can't erase what's in your blood. Tom felt a shiver. Kesha, he asked quietly, why did you really accept this fight? For a long moment she said nothing, gaze fixed on Victoria across the gym. When her voice finally came, it carried a hard edge Tom had never heard before. Because people like her think they can diminish us, decide our worth by the shade of our skin or the place we were born. She saw me as an easy victim, a punchline for her followers. But where I grew up, respect isn't handed out. It's earned. And when someone tries to steal your dignity, Kesha's lips curved into a predator's smile. Sometimes lightning has to remind the world why storms are feared. Across the room, Victoria Sterling was still live streaming, oblivious to the shift in the air. Everyone else sensed it. This was no exhibition round. It was years of quiet struggle about to speak with fists. The bell clanged. They met at center ring. Victoria attacked first, fast jabs slicing the air. But Kesha was smoke and shadow, sliding a fraction ahead of every strike. What the? Victoria muttered, missing again and again. Stay still, she snapped, throwing heavier shots. That's when it happened. A single misstep. Kesha's counter was lightning itself, her left hand cracking across Victoria's cheek with a sound that silenced the gym. Victoria stumbled, eyes wide. Impossible! But Kesha was already moving, each step precise, every punch a note in a perfectly scored symphony of controlled power. For every strike Victoria launched, 3 came back faster. For every advance, Kesha had already written the counter. Who is this girl? Someone shouted. Winston only smiled. Lightning, Campbell. By the second round, Victoria's breathing was ragged, her face marked. The live comments that once cheered her had turned, the champ is getting schooled, that Jamaican is unreal. Her manager's frantic shouts blurred beneath the roar of the crowd, which now cheered for the underdog. Kesha stepped forward, calm as a tide. Lightning was never just a nickname, she said evenly. It's a warning. Then came the storm. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut. 4 strikes in under 2 seconds, each landing with surgical precision. Victoria crumpled to the canvas. The gym erupted. Phones shot skyward to capture the moment as Tom began the count. 10! Knockout. Kesha walked to the corner, where medics tended the fallen champion. You said you wanted to teach me a lesson, she said softly. I hope you learned that respect isn't about color, birthplace, or bank account. It's earned by character. Victoria looked at Kesha, eyes glassy with humiliation, but for the first time, carrying a hint of respect. Jerry hurried over, checking her phone. The mocking stories had gone viral, but not the way Victoria expected. Comments were ruthless. That's what happens when arrogance meets reality. Lightning Campbell just rewrote the script. "Victoria," Jerry said, showing the screen. "You've lost 100,000 followers in an hour. Sponsors are pulling out." Victoria's hands trembled as she scrolled. Her last post, meant to ridicule Kesha, had become a memorial to her own downfall. Tom approached Kesha, who was surrounded by cheers. "Lightning, can I ask something? Why hide who you are?" Kesha glanced at the defeated champion. "Because some people have to dig their own hole before they understand how deep it is." Winston hugged his niece, pride glowing in his eyes. "You're still Lightning?" "No, Uncle," Kesha said softly, watching Victoria limp toward the exit under a barrage of camera flashes. "Lightning was who I had to be to survive. Today I fought for dignity, not revenge." Phones captured every angle as the knockout video shot across the internet. One question echoed in the captions and headlines. Can a single fight expose not just two athletes, but an entire culture of privilege and bias? 3 months later, the contrast could not have been sharper. Victoria Sterling, once an undefeated world champion, now rented a small apartment after losing her mansion. The fight clip had passed 50 million views, turning her name into the year's most recycled meme. Nike, Adidas, Gatorade, brands that once paid millions, stopped returning calls. Her former manager's words rang in her ears. "It's not the loss. It's who you revealed yourself to be." No one wants their brand tied to arrogance. Meanwhile, across the country, Kesha Campbell signed her first professional contract. $2 million for 3 fights with a renewal clause worth up to $50 million. She became more than a sports sensation. She was a symbol of resilience. Under Armour launched a line inspired by her story. Earned, not given. Donations poured into the gym's scholarship program, and a waiting list of 500 young athletes formed. Kids who saw their own hope in Kesha's rise. When ESPN called Tom Rodriguez for a documentary, he told them, "I didn't discover her. She always knew who she was. I just respected her enough to see it." Winston visited often. "Remember what I said about hunger?" he asked one evening. Kesha smiled. "It's not about where we come from. It's about the fire we carry inside." Victoria tried to rebuild, a YouTube apology, a small-time podcast interview. "I was wrong," she admitted. Kesha Campbell deserved respect from the start. My own pride blinded me. But the internet never forgets. Clips of her apology became memes again. When reporters asked Kesha for a reaction, she stayed gracious. "I hold no anger," she told Sports Illustrated. This was never about revenge. It was about proving that respect is earned by character, not fame. Anger consumes those who hold on to it. "I'd rather use that energy to build bridges for young women like me," Kesha said. Her foundation, Lightning Dreams, had already helped more than 300 girls from disadvantaged communities earn scholarships and athletic opportunities. The first gym was opening in Kingston, Jamaica, in the very neighborhood where she'd once fought just to survive. During the live-streamed ribbon cutting, Kesha held the microphone with the same hands that had floored a world champion. "This story isn't about revenge," she told the crowd. "It's about dignity, about proving that respect is earned by character, not privilege." Applause thundered through the audience. "But I'll say this," she continued, her voice firm. "Victoria Sterling gave me a gift. She underestimated me. And when someone underestimates you, you have 2 choices. Let it break you, or use it as fuel to become unstoppable." From the front row, Tom Rodriguez wiped away a quiet tear. In decades of training champions, he had never seen humiliation transformed into hope so gracefully. Months later, Lightning Campbell became the unified world champion, winning by knockout in, again, the second round. In her victory speech, she surprised everyone. "I want to thank those who tried to put me down, who thought they could define my limits. You taught me that true power isn't about birthplace or skin color. It comes from refusing to let anyone else decide who you can be." Far away, Victoria Sterling watched from a small rented apartment. As the referee raised Kesha's hand, she finally understood the difference between talent and greatness. Talent is born. Greatness is forged in adversity. Kesha Campbell hadn't just won a fight in a Manhattan gym. She had rewritten the definition of strength, respect, and triumph. The best revenge, she proved, isn't destroying your rival. It's becoming everything they claimed you could never be. And as Lightning Campbell stood in the global spotlight, her story echoed a lesson for anyone who has ever been underestimated or dismissed. Never let anyone define your limits. The greatest victory is proving them completely wrong. If this story of transformation and resilience moved you, hit subscribe for more true accounts of people who turned doubt into destiny.